Hello everyone, my name is Umar. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine. So today we are going to have a short video, and this video will just explain the steps of how to configure an SSH access to a Cisco device. Now before we start with SSH configuration, let's talk about SSH. So SSH is a protocol which is used to take remote access. It is the clear text version of this protocol was Telnet. But in Telnet, the problem which happens is everything goes in the clear text format. So if anyone is trying to sniff your packets, he can note down the username and the password which you are sending initially, whatever commands you are sending, and he can gain control of your device. So from the security standpoint point of view, you have to have a protocol which is going to send data to your router in an encrypted format. Because if you're using encryption, so if he tries to hack into your communication, if he tries to sniff the packet, he or she would see something which is garbage value. How? Let's talk about SSH, how it is encrypted and how does it work. So let's say this is my Windows client, and somewhere over here I have a Cisco router. So I have a Cisco one CSR 1000V. Now they are connected via the internet. So let's say this is the internet, and somehow they are connected. So let's say this is my interface G1. Okay, and it has some IP address. So whatever communication channel now I am forming with this particular router, this is an encrypted channel. Okay, so if any bad actor on the internet, okay, if he or she tries to see this data, for him or her it would be garbage value. How? Because here I will be having a public and private key pair, public private keys, and on the other side I'm having some public keys which I'll be using to encrypt the information which I'm going to send. So I'll be encrypting it using a public key, and there's a key pair with a private key which exists on the CSR 1000V router, which will be able to decrypt that data. Now this poor person does not have the public key, nor does he have the private key, so whatever he will be seeing will be something not really understood by him. It will be garbage value. Unless he has those keys, he won't understand what is being sent through the encrypted channel. So this is why we use SSH. Now how SSH works, so how you have to configure SSH on a Cisco router. So this is a similar kind of scenario which you're going to use today. We have a Windows client, we have a CSR 1000V running, and we'll be setting up SSH on this particular CSR 1000V router. So the first thing you have to set is a domain name, and you have to set up an IP on the interface. So let's say I'm using interface G1. So I'll be setting up an IP address over here, and I have to set a domain name on the router. So the domain plus IP, so this plus this will help you to generate some keys. Okay, so it will help you to generate RSA keys, which will be exported to the client. So this is, let's say, the client, and this is my server. Okay, so the domain and the IP combination is used to generate the keys. Then I have to set up some local usernames and passwords. I have to set up my credential. Now let's say my name is Umar, so I will set up Umar, and so this is Umar. So in this database I have to store a username for Umar, and I have to store a password for Umar through which Umar can access the router. Generate RSA keys, so we'll be using a command to generate the keys which will be exported to the client to take SSH access. So once the client has public keys, then the private keys are over here, and then whatever the communication we are going to do is going to be secure. Then enable SSH. Now SSH has versions v1 and version 2. Version 2 is more secure as a protocol, so we'll be enabling SSH version 2. Enable VTY lines. VTY lines is the remote access lines which are available on this particular router. So line VTY, if you just do a show run on this router, you will be seeing line VTY 0 space 4, which is by default. So you can either configure it from 0 to 4, you can configure it from 0 to, let's say, for 7 users 0 to 6, for 10 users 0 to 9. So how many users at a time can come in and access the router? So we will keep these values as from line VTY 0 to 4. So on those lines, we will set up some parameters as to how the access should be done, who is allowed to access, and what protocol will be enabled. So here we will say how to access, who will access. So who will access will be via the access list, like which IP addresses can take SSH. So how, who, and what was the third thing I said? I said how that and what. So how would be via the user. So which username and password and which protocol. So it could be I can just enable telnet or I can enable SSH. So how will be the username and the password, who will be the limitations imposed by the access list, to limit on the IP addresses, okay, which IP addresses can come, and the protocol, it could be SSH, it could be telnet. So I will enable or disable whatever protocols I want, and then at the end of the configuration I will verify if whether the things are working as we have thought and planned of. Okay, so well, let's go and do some configurations over here. So I have my Cisco CSR 1000V. This is having an IP address of 10.100.222.165. Before I start with the configuration, let me open up PuTTY. Okay, and in PuTTY I will just try to SSH on this particular IP address. So 10.100.222.165. I haven't set up anything, I'm just verifying. SSH open, and nothing worked because I haven't enabled SSH. I was just trying to check and verify whether whatever we're starting with, it should be blank. Okay, so let's start. So conft. Now let's set up a domain name, IP domain name. Let's say bluemap.co, bluemaps. Okay, it's bluemap.cco. The typing error, but that's fine. Then what do we have to set up? We have to set up a username and password. So username Omar, password, I'll set up a secret value over here, or username Omar secret, and I'll set up a secret password. Let's say Omar @bluemap. Okay, .co. Okay, so username as a secret. I'm using secret because it should be encrypted. In the show run, I won't be seeing Omar @bluemap.co in clear text format, and that is one level of security which we have to think about when you're setting up some passwords. Okay, now domain name is set, IP is set. Next step, generate the crypto key. So crypto key generate RSA keys. It will ask me for how many bits, so you can check what is the safe level, and as of now it's 2048. So I will just set up 2048 bits. Now 2048, so your key should be not big enough, not small enough. It should be somewhere, because if it's a small modulus, then it is easier to crack. If it is a bigger modulus, a larger modulus, then it will take too much time to generate. So you have to keep it somewhere in the middle. So I'll just say 2048 keys. Okay, and now see, I have another message which says SSH 1.99 has been enabled. So SSH version 1 is by default. So I will say I want SSH version 2, IP SSH version 2 is enabled now. Then I will go line VTY 0 space 4 transport input SSH. So I just want SSH to work on my remote lines. Login should be via the local database. Okay, and access class, an access list number. Let's say I choose 77 and in the inbound direction. Exit, I have to set up an access list. So access list 77 permit 10.100.222.0 space, I have to use a wildcard mask 000255. So what I have done is I have enabled SSH, I have enabled my VTY lines, and I have set up an access list wherein I just want to limit the access as to who can come into my router. So which IP pool is allowed to take access to my router. If I don't do it, by default anyone is and everyone is permitted. But if I have to take more care in my network as to who can come in and who cannot come in, I will set up an access list and apply it in the line VTY section. So this access list is used for the classification purposes. Once this is done, I'll say do WR, save the configuration, and then verify it with my PuTTY. So I'll load up PuTTY over here and let's restart the session. Yes. Now I'm getting the server RSA2 fingerprint. So if you trust this key, I say trust, yes, login as Umar, password is umar@bluemap.co. Okay, enable, no enable password set, so we have to set up an enable password. So I won't set up enable password, I will again set up enable secret, PuTTY@123@bluemap. Okay, and again do WR. Going back, I'll just type enable and the password is PuTTY@123@bluemap. Okay, I'm in the router. If I just do a show run, I'll see everything is encrypted. So see, enable secret is encrypted format. I will check my username. Domain name is bluemap.cco, and there's a lot of configurations inside this. But here, this is the important part. The secret and the secret password is something like this. So even if I do a show run command, I won't be seeing my username and the password because I have used all secret values. But what we learned from here, how to configure SSH. Now for all you guys to have a note, like what all commands and how you have to generate, I'll just write it out all over here. So whatever we have done is written over here. I'll just clear this part of the screen and I'll write the exact commands here for your quick reference. Okay, so let's take a text pad. Okay, let's take a note over here and just type in. So first thing we did was IP domain name bluemap.co. Okay, I'll just try to increase this a bit. Sorry, I cannot do it. Just read this. I'll write it with a text box. Okay, yeah, this looks good. Okay, perfect. So IP domain name bluemap.co. Then I said username. I'll just leave it to you guys to whatever name you have to put. So username, let's say I'll just use it, say Cisco. Password, instead of password always use secret Cisco. Okay, so IP domain name done, password done, generate RSA keys. So crypto key generate RSA, enter and enter the modulus. So let's say 2048 would be something which you would enter. Enable SSH version 2, IP SSH version 2. By default version 1 is running in your network. Then go to line VTY 0 space 0 to 4, so you can choose whatever lines you want, and there you can write what transport mode you have to enable. So transport input, so what protocol is getting activated on that line, how the user will log in, and who will log in. So access class, refer standard access list, and the direction inbound. And then you go ahead and define your access list and permit your network. So permit, let's say x.x.x.x. Okay, so I'll just leave it over here so that you guys can then decide what you want to allow and what you want to block. So I'll just write exit over here, and that's it. So this is your entire configuration, which you can take a screenshot of, so that tomorrow when you're sitting on your Cisco routers, you can just configure SSH real quick. So these are some small topics which we tend to forget, because we are not doing this daily, and I hope this video will help you to understand what SSH is, and it will help you to quickly configure SSH if you are stuck in one of the configurations or one odd day you just want to do SSH or to enable SSH on any one of your routers. I hope this has been informative. Thank you guys for watching. You can comment your thoughts below. You can like the video, share the video with your friends, and do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care. Bye bye.